Here is Oliver Reed. Oliver, you look smashing. You were very worried the last time you were here that you had put on weight, and now look at you.
I put on even more.
You have not. You're down. You're down.
I've been eating hamburgers over here.
A new taste thrill?
Well, it is. We don't have hamburgers in Europe.
May I ask you a question?
Orson, if you're capable.
What do you put on your hamburgers? Oh, no.
You see...
Come on, it's not your show now. Yes.
We were together in Athens not long ago to make a film. We spent 10 days waiting for the producer to turn up. He didn't come or pay the hotel bill, and we had to sneak out of Greece under assumed names. And I wonder if you ever got paid.
Orson, just in case your lawyers are listening.
I didn't.
I got paid.
I thought so.
Yes. But then I had a special contract.
Oh. What's the... How do you get paid by somebody of that nature?
By having a good agent.
Your brother?
Yes. We were plugging him
His
now.
brother is his agent.
No, but anyway, can I get back to the hamburgers? And I have put on weight. Strangely enough,
I don't see.
I also fell in love with a Californian girl, which I know is going to be your next question, because I came here on your last show and I
That
said...
was it. You said, I said, why are you in California? Thinking you were going to plug the mush. You said, I came here to fall in love with a California girl.
That's right. Well, I did. I can't talk about her in case her parents are embarrassed. But other than that,
Why would her parents be embarrassed?
Hamburgers. Orson is a great gourmet. But if anybody in Europe, they have Foster's Hollywood in Madrid, do they not?
They have Wimpy's in the in the Champs-Élysées.
No, but the hamburgers here are superb, but not the posh ones in the posh hotels. You go there and the buns fall to pieces, and they fall on your trousers, and they get up and they think you've
Had a problem.
had a problem.
Yes.
But the ones that don't want to advertise, but the ones that you can put all the relish on and all the gunk, they're the things that we don't have in Europe, and that's what I've been eating.
But why don't you take a franchise back?
They've already...
Oliver's Hamburgers.
No, they've already got them over there. And besides that, I can't cook that well.
And what about cheeseburger? You haven't even mentioned a cheeseburger. That's
But I mean everything on it.
Oh, I know. And you love them?
This is an intellectual conversation.
No.
I thought I was coming on with Orson.
Raised the level of... The minute Oliver came on, the whole thing got very classy.
I know.
You sob. Talk about got out by the skin of our teeth. My brother, who also ensured that I was paid, made sure that I had traveler's checks. Now, Orson, God bless your heart, sir, always has problem in financing films. I mean, he is one of the greatest actor-directors that I know, and spends any money that he has on trying to promote movies and make movies.
Right.
But I've never stranded any actors.
You stranded me in several Greek restaurants. Come on, what about that time I said, but Orson, all the drivers and the taxi drivers want to get paid. And you said, dear boy, ignore them. And we went out to the restaurant, and Orson had the most amazing-looking lady with him. And I know this to be true because we were there for 10 days on your own admission, and for 10 days he invited me out for either for luncheon or for dinner. And he would order coffee. And at the end of, when he said, black coffee, my dear. And imagine this, you're all sitting at the table. And then the... And the waiter comes in with the bill, as Orson eats well, and he says, Orson's gone.
What makes this story?
Your reputation.
What makes this story so peculiarly pointless is the fact that Oliver has already admitted that he got paid. And I didn't by this.
That's right.
That's a good thought. Good thought.
Now,
I
would
didn't
you
know
want...
it at the time. Sorry.
Well, you wouldn't want Orson to be stranded in
That's
Athens
right.
for the rest
No,
of his
he was
life.
never stranded. Orson will never be stranded anyone.
That clever?
Yes.
Really?
No, and that...
It's a genius.
Do you know the one great thing that I've said before? I made a film with Orson years ago called I'll Never Forget What's His Name. And Orson, I came up to it because he refused it, or in those days when he was a youngster, refused to work beyond 1 o'clock a.m. in the morning if he was doing nights.
Only for Michael Winner. That doesn't apply.
No, but nevertheless, I can only talk about the films that I've had experience of. And I came up to Orson after he had had his hamper from Fortnum and Mason's, which he shared, I must admit, abundantly with us all.
Your hamburgers from Fortnum and Mason?
That's right. And he stays at
Whole
Brown's
thing is a
Hotel.
fantasy, but let it go on.
Do you remember you got lost in the lift?
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Is that a true
Anyway,
story?
coming back to Orson, this is a true story. I knew nothing about acting. I still know nothing about acting. I came up to Orson. I said, Orson, I would like to thank you, sir. I was very submissive in those days.
Right.
I said, Orson, I would like to thank you for teaching me how to underplay things. I had no confidence about how to play things down. And he said, dear boy, if in doubt, do nothing.
I love it. But isn't that the greatest lesson you can learn in acting? Orson?
You're not stumped.
No, I'm thinking of all of his great ancestors. That's why. You see, I'm thinking of his
we're
great
gonna hear
uncle,
about you now.
who was Sir Herbert Beerbohm-Tree, one of the greatest actors who ever lived.
You never told his son, of course.
And yes, but I'm speaking of acting, and Sir Herbert Beerbohm-Tree is remembered in an age of overacting for the simplicity of his effects in character parts.
And Max?
Max was his half-brother.
Yes,
That was
half-brother,
your
Max Beerbohm.
uncle?
That was my uncle.
Yeah. And Carol Reed was his uncle.
Sir
Who was
Carol
one of
Reed
my
is your
dearest
uncle?
friends, yes.
Well, now, what have we been doing on this show all these times? You don't
Not
toot
only
your
that,
horn,
but
as
he's
they
the
say.
direct descendant of Peter the Great of Russia.
Good. God, could I kiss your ring?
No joke. He really is.
I didn't know he was so
Yes.
sloopy-doopy. I'm surprised. What a chuck.
So what?
Aristocrat.
Yes, yes.
Aristocrat. Cracked.
It's a very important background, really. You got a great roots.
Yes, we have. And
Handle that one, Oliver.
Yes, well, no doubt if she gets in touch with the epistles of the King of Spain, he will be able to tell her about that.
Bo?
What about that? What about the Armada?
But
What
why-
about the Peninsular Wars? What about the great love affair of Philip for Queen Elizabeth I? I mean, you've been trying to marry into the English aristocracy for centuries.
My great-great-grandpapa. It's true.
Why is he looking at me?
No, don't look at me.
When you're talking to the Turkish...
Oliver says because you look like the King of Spain, that's why.
He's telling me about the Spanish root. People try to mix with everybody in England everywhere. My great-great-great-grandpapa, Don Juan. They call him Don Juan because
Don
after
Juan
Juan,
is your great-great-great-great-grandpappy?
Don Juan, after Juan, he was done.
Tenorio?
Don Juan, yes, no. Not really. But I know, Yeah, people looking at you. No, it's true.
Tell me when she's finished.
One never knows. Sometimes a bell goes
No,
off.
right now.
Right. But I didn't realize that you were...
Yeah, that sort of thing doesn't involve me too much. History of acting, I think it's
Peter
involuntary. No, but Peter the Great.
I mean, that was 17th century and 18th century
Oh, I don't
stuff.
know. I don't know. He came over to England in order to learn how to build ships. He went to Holland, first of all, but he wanted to complete an amazing navy for the Russians, simply because he wanted to look after his interests inside. And so he came to Holland in order to build ships. He also went to Deptford, where he lived in John Evelyn's house, destroyed it, got his gardeners to ride him in wheelbarrows through holly hedges. And he used to dress himself up as an ordinary carpenter and demanded to be known as Peter the Carpenter. And all the real carpenters of his group who went over to learn to build the ships, he would dress them up as aristocrats and he would disguise them as himself, which worked very well until such time as the people on the streets of London got the hang of what he was doing. With suddenly 20 buckos walking down the street and 9 carpenters that all the buckos were cowing down to was quite an extravagant sight in the streets of London. And so they started to throw their plum pips at him and their cherry pips at him. So he sent a messenger to the king at the time and insisted that if he was going to be disguised as a carpenter on the streets of London, at least he should be paid the courtesy of not having the populace throw cherry stones at him.
Might you ever make that movie yourself, Oliver?
About Peter?
Well, that sounds
Far too extravagant. For instance, when he rushed home, back to Russia again, because the Musketeers had formulated a society that got his sister, who he had sent to a nunnery and incarcerated in a castle, and said, "We want you to be leader." He got wind of this and rushed back with his emissaries, and he took out a sword and an axe, and he executed himself 230 people on the main street. He also took the Musketeers and tied to their hands this epistle and hanged them by their ankles in front of her windows until they rotted. Now, there's the prankster, there's the joker. Great story, too expensive to make. Awesome.
Big turnover in Musketeers.
Yeah, well, sure.
Yes.
Yeah, but nobody knows. I made a film called The Devils once, and I played General Grandier. And within this story of the Devils, the Musketeers came in, Richelieu and people like that. But in the Musketeers, which I also made, nobody knew, for instance, that the plague was taking place in Paris during the course of the Three Musketeers, the Four Musketeers. And it didn't come out until the Devils, when Ken Russell said, okay, it wasn't all ha-ha, because the plague was going all the way through there, and they were putting out this yellow smoke and putting wasps to ladies' bosoms to take the plague away. And hence a tissue, we all fall down, because they used to wear the posies around their nose of roses, a tissue, we all fall down. But that was and so when somebody sneezes, they say, bless you, because that was a sign
the plague, yes.
That was the plague, yeah. But very interesting. We're only phonies. I mean, whatever I am, in terms of my grandfather, in terms of my grandfather's brother or my uncle, is nothing to do with me, only has something to do with the blood, the need to behave like a fool. Plus the fact that I suppose the chances are, if one wants to get a sprinting racehorse, I love racehorses, if one's going to get a racehorse, one crosses a fast horse with a fast horse, mare, and they get it covered. Chances are you're going to get something fast out. Nothing to do with me. My family have been connected with acting for some time, since I suppose the Russian Revolution, when our monies were cut off. And then they decided that they had to earn a living, and how best to earn a living if you're not carrying a flag than to become an actor.
Well, you know that Prince Renier's great-grandfather was a matinee idol in Paris.
I didn't know that. But I knew that the Grimaldis were pirates.
No, that's not the Grimaldi also was a leading man in the French theater.
But before the leading man in the French theater, they came to their money
They all
by
talk
stopping.
about how they were pirates. They were no more pirates than everybody else was in those days.
Prince Rainier tells that story.
I know he loves to, because you don't.
But you're a friend of the royals?
What?
You're a friend of the royals? You go down there with Frank Sinatra when the daughter's getting
I
married?
am the only man, I think, certainly in show business, who knows him and has never met her.
What about David Lean?
I know him.
That's an in-joke.
If someone were to ask you at this moment, because you've just finished Dr. Heckle and Mr. Hype, what has been your best work? How would you answer it, Oliver? Might it be just a moment in a motion picture? Might it be a 3-minute scene, a 7-minute scene, an entire film?
I think the most important thing for an actor to do is to really suffer. And I think Orson, I was watching him in the green room, was talking about the only acting being theatre. I don't necessarily believe that. I
don't either, but I thought it'd be nice to put Merv down.
Yes, well, I don't believe that. I believe, as with Glenda...
It's the same thing in any medium.
Yes, I didn't realize that your voice was theatrical and you could shout me down. Yes, and I would like to stand up and talk about film actors. I have never been more excited than by walking into a theatre and seeing Citizen Kane or On the Waterfront or Left-Handed Gun.
Right.
Movie actors to me smell like magic simply because I grew up with cinema. In a sense, when talkies were coming in and with James Dean and with Brando, And it was magic for me. But to sit down in an audience while everybody is eating chocolates and you're not allowed to smoke and everybody's going out supping warm gin and saying the same things every night for month after month, I am sure, knowing some actors as well as I do, that they do get slightly bored, and I'm not sure that the audience are getting their penny's worth. I prefer the immediacy, the ejaculation of film acting. And I'm sure you do.
When Brando and Dean arrived on the screen, were English actors, because of your training, shocked by their performances?
No. English actors were going around. You've got to understand that just before the Second World War, everybody had a parting. Everybody who went to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art had a classical training. Everybody went into repertory theatre. Everybody was expected to go to the West End or to New York. And then the war came about and everybody got killed. And then everybody suddenly saw the sergeant that was saying, and nobody was too concerned with that until after the war. And they were saying, what was that man saying? And they were saying that he was broken and he was bleeding and nobody understood him. And the officer with the parting in his hair and the pomade possibly wasn't too much in touch with him. Let's make films about him. And then in English theatre, you got John Osborne, and you got people writing The L-Shaped Room or Look Back in Anger, and everybody was in curlers, and all the taps were always dripping, and there was always an anti-hero, and that was nonsense as well. But out of that, in America, came people like Dean and people like Brando. I mean, to name a few. And then shortly after, people like Paul Newman. And for my generation of actor, and I'm 42, was magic.
Is Sir Laurence Olivier the greatest actor of our time?
I think that Larry was very concerned with theatre and was very concerned with the result of theatre on the paying audience. I believe that he shied, and Orson probably knows better than I about this, shied clear of the cinema simply because he loved the theatre so much. I think that now he's in the shadows of his autumn. He has decided that to be Lord Brighton is not possibly enough, and that, you know, he has to get his estate in order. Otherwise, knavesmen and thieves shut their gates.
Mm-hmm. Is he the greatest actor of our time?
I think that he's proving so many different things, you see. I was talking to, I don't like to name that, but I was talking to Ralph Richardson the other day, and he said, never underestimate Larry, because if you ever have the opportunity to work with him, because he'll walk onto the set in the morning and he will say, dear boy, I have a terrible problem today. I was awake all last night, and I don't know how to play the part. I don't know how to play these scenes. Would you please help me? Which immediately puts an actor on his mettle, which means to say he's terrified. And there you have the great charisma. The same was when I worked with Orson. I met him first in the National Theatre. We had a little location there. And there's the great Orson Welles. And I had, you know, about 10 lines to say, and all he had to do was to look. But to me, that was, for me anyway, he's one of the gods, and that's all I can say.
I wonder, Orson, if you would say a few words about the acting of Oliver Reed.
Oh, with great pleasure. You see, he confounds one because of his passionate partisanship for the films, but he's really one of those actors who would work in any medium because he displaces air. He displaces a lot of air. And only those actors can work in every medium. And you also read what he's thinking. Mm-hmm. He's a listener. And that's one of the other great qualities of an actor. He has these obvious qualifications, enormous physical presence and vitality and all of that. I'm speaking of the less obvious, the more subtle things that make him interesting. He's, I think, just beginning.
You've actually asked me to work for you a couple of times, haven't you?
I have a role for you, as a matter of fact, for this coming season. We'd be happy to send you a script.
Well, I'd like to sign the contract right for 10%. Well, tell us, if you will, Oliver, about Dr. Heckle and Mr. Hype.
Yes, I will. I was going to...
It's the modern day.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, really. I've been offered a lot of scripts like it that never got off the ground, simply because people haven't been bold enough or had enough money to make it. I was going to go off and do something which was a little bit more expensive, when suddenly this script turned up, out of the blue. And it is a story about the hypocrisy. It's a story about, really, to trace it, how society believes that ugly people are bad and how beautiful people are necessarily good. That is not true. The most beautiful people, the smartest people that I've ever met, the one that goes around with the suit and the tie and the collar and sits in a real estate office, is not necessarily going to tell you how much you can afford on buying a house. And I believe that army generals sometimes go around in the finest uniforms, but they're not necessarily as good as the private. Bad is not necessarily synonymous with ugly, and that's all.
A scene now from Dr. Heckle and Mr. Hype. This is a scene involving a kiss.
It's a story of self-ejaculation.
And will we see that?
Hope so.
It'll be a television first. Oliver Reed.